Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right in today because we're looking at something absolutely fascinating: what it actually takes to build a highly efficient workplace. We're essentially decoding a surprisingly strict, totally no-nonsense corporate manifesto about workplace expectations. We're looking directly at the anatomy of a high-performance culture. And look, this isn't your typical fluffy corporate jargon. No way. What we're analyzing today is a precise, mathematically driven framework for organizational success pulled straight from a deeply structured playbook. So let's dive right in and see how a culture of true responsibility and ownership is actually built from the ground up.
I want to start right off the bat with this quote. They are hired to add value, not occupy a chair. Boom. Right? It's a pretty blunt baseline expectation for sure, but it gives us an immediate sense of the exact culture we're dealing with today. In a high-performance environment like this, mere attendance is not an achievement. The organization demands a positive return on its investment in you. It's this stark reminder that simply showing up, actually scratch that, just existing within the four walls of an office or turning your camera on for a virtual meeting isn't what moves the needle. You have to actively generate value. So let's get into Section 1, the baseline. The document we're looking at draws a very, very clear line in the sand. On the left side, we have the value adder. This is the profile of an employee who fundamentally delivers more than they cost. But it goes way beyond just raw output. They follow policies, they actively support their colleagues, and crucially, they protect the organization's reputation. Now contrast that with the chair occupier on the right. This is the person who essentially just occupies space, maybe forwards emails all day, chooses to work in isolation, and ultimately, they fail to generate a positive return. As you look at this stark contrast, I kind of want you to consider your own mindset and really the culture of your current team. Are you cultivating value adders or are you accidentally subsidizing chair occupiers?
And that thought brings us to this incredibly clear definition: performance ROI. This framework views the entire employer-employee relationship as a strict mathematical reality. The fundamental transaction here is that an employee absolutely must generate more value for the organization than they receive in salary and benefits. It's pretty simple. If an employee costs X, their output, the quality of their work, and their overall impact must equal X plus something extra. If that math doesn't work out, well, according to the playbook, the culture starts to fracture. So you might be wondering, how is that math actually measured in the real world? It all comes down to these non-negotiable performance metrics. We're talking output delivered, quality of work, timeliness, compliance with policies, and teamwork. You see, it's not just about what you do, but how you do it, when you do it, and whether you're following the rules while helping others along the way. And why are these specific metrics so absolutely vital? Because tracking them guarantees two massive things: fairness and accountability. When everyone is measured by the exact same clear standards, ambiguity just vanishes, and a true meritocracy can actually thrive.
All right, moving on to Section 2, mandatory collaboration and support.
The really crucial point here is that working as a lone wolf, that just isn't an option. According to the source, no employee should ever work in isolation. Collaboration is literally mandatory. We've got cross-functional support required across the board, and team coordination is viewed as essential. But how do you actually enforce that kind of teamwork? Well, you do it through shared KPIs. When performance indicators are shared, individuals are mathematically incentivized to help each other succeed. It's like a giant puzzle where your piece relies on theirs. And the ultimate goal of all this forced coordination? It ensures that the organization meets its annual work plan right on time. It connects everyday ground-level teamwork directly to the top-level strategic goals of the company. Now for Section 3, the ultimate paper trail. Okay, I know I can practically hear the universal groan that this level of bureaucracy usually elicits. But stick with me for a second, because walking through this chronological life cycle shows exactly how a completely watertight system operates. The source mandates that every single action must be documented. We start right at hour 1 with meeting minutes. Then, by day 1, formal task assignments are recorded. By day 2, explicit delivery timelines are set in stone. Moving into week 1, we hit formal approvals. As reality sets in around week 2, any changes are meticulously documented or they're replanned with brand new timelines. Finally, at project end, completion reports are filed. It is an unbroken, airtight chain of evidence from inception all the way to execution. And this right here perfectly illustrates the why behind all that paperwork. This protects the organization and ensures continuity. That is the exact justification the source text gives for this extensive, uncompromising audit trail. Think about it. If someone leaves, if a team shifts around, or if a project completely derails, there is no guessing game. The documentation acts as a permanent institutional memory. It provides absolute protection against liability and misunderstandings while seamlessly allowing the very next person to pick up exactly where the last person left off.
Which brings us to our final core concept, Section 4, the formula for leadership.
We've spent a lot of time talking about what the employee owes the company. But here's the kicker. Leadership cannot just set these strict rules and walk away. That's not how it works. According to the framework, leadership must reinforce this culture daily. It is a persistent, everyday obligation. You can't just mandate a high-performance culture in some annual corporate memo and expect it to stick. You have to actively breathe it into the organization, model it, and enforce it every single day.
This whole idea builds into an intense operational checklist, what the source famously calls the 7 rights of leadership. A leader must ensure the right people are in the right roles, armed with the right instructions, the right tools, and the right timelines. And it doesn't just stop at delegating tasks. Leaders must provide the right monitoring and the right accountability. So if an employee fails, this framework forces the leader to look in the mirror and ask, did I put the right person in the right role? Did I actually give them the right tools and clear instructions? This checklist brilliantly shifts the heavy burden of operational execution directly onto the boss.
And the results of all that heavy lifting? When these 7 conditions are met, work gets done smoothly. That is the source's ultimate guarantee. It's a pretty bold promise for sure, but it makes logical sense when you break it down. If management perfectly aligns the people, the resources, the instructions, and the oversight, then friction just disappears. All those systemic roadblocks are cleared away, allowing those value-adding employees we talked about earlier to just put their heads down and execute flawlessly. Which brings us to our conclusion for today. As we've seen throughout this explainer, a true high-performance culture is a two-way street of extreme ownership. Yes, the employee is undeniably on the hook to deliver a positive ROI, but it begs the ultimate question to leave you with. Your team is expected to deliver value, but are your leaders actually providing the 7 conditions to make it happen? It's a perfectly balanced equation of mutual accountability, because you simply cannot demand ruthless efficiency from the bottom up if you aren't providing flawless structure from the top down. I want you to think about where your organization falls on that spectrum today. Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive, and keep asking those tough questions. We'll see you next time.